In a decisive move that's exciting business leaders and educators across North Carolina and around the United States, the North Carolina Community College System has unveiled its visionary new funding model, Propel NC. This groundbreaking initiative, set to revolutionize the way community colleges operate, comes after months of deliberation, anticipation, and a lot of hard work. With me today are Dr. Jeff Cox, President of the North Carolina Community College System, and Gary Salamido, President and CEO of the NC Chamber. Welcome. Dr. Cox, at a high level, tell us, what is Propel NC?
So Mebane, thank you for being here, and Gary, thank you for having us here for this conversation. So Propel NC is really it's a new funding model for our community college system. So you're familiar, I know personally, but for our listening audience, our current funding model is based roughly on what we call full-time equivalent students. So we get so much funding for every student who applies and comes to a community college, and at part-time students we get a proportion of that full-time funding. So the current model has a complicated tier structure where we've tried over the last decade, really about a decade ago, to make some adjustments so that courses that were more expensive were funded at a little bit higher level, a higher tier, if you will. So we have tier 1A, 1B, tier 2, tier 3, and depending on the course, I like to use an example of a nursing course versus an English course. If you're teaching an English course, you need an English teacher and a textbook, and you're pretty much ready to go. If you're doing a nursing course, we've got high fidelity mannequins we have to buy, with all kinds of medical supplies. The nursing instructor salaries are higher. So the tiers are roughly based on cost of offering programs. But it's an imperfect system, and I couldn't myself tell you what's in tier 1A from 1B to tier 2. It's complicated and nobody really understands it, even internal to the system, especially not out in our business community. So the charge the board gave me when they hired me about 11 months ago was, we want to completely transform our community college funding model. It's time to revolutionize the funding model and really think forward to how can we better serve North Carolina and our business and industry partners out there and our students. So we put together a team of local presidents. We looked at brought in some national experts to think about what's going on across the country with funding models. But we really leaned back into our own expertise here inside the state. And we had a group of presidents we pulled together to work with our system office team and develop this new funding model. The way it works now is we've gotten rid of the old tier structure with these courses that are all over the place in the tiers, and instead developed workforce sectors, things that are very easy to understand. The first one is Healthcare 1. So you can think nursing, respiratory therapy, radiography. We looked at to develop these workforce sectors and determine the funding levels. We looked at what jobs across the state are in high demand and pay high wages. Those who are highest demand and paid highest wages are at the top of the funding structure. So we're asking the legislature to fund those at a higher level. Let's incentivize colleges to do more of the classes and programs that are in high demand and pay high wages. It's a win-win. It's a win for our students, and it's a win for business and industry who have thousands and thousands of jobs they're trying to fill, and our systems aren't aligned to incentivize colleges and students to pursue those paths. So we've got a handful of different sectors. I mentioned the Healthcare 1. We've got trades and transportation, IT, public safety, like think of police and fire and rescue, all those lumped into one sector. And again, the funding levels are just funded based on those high demand, high wage jobs. The other piece of that is we have a customized training program and small business centers that historically haven't drawn in any funding for the colleges. They get a base allocation, but if they do a lot more customized training, they don't really profit any from that as a college. This new funding model addresses that, and colleges will begin to earn half of an FTE credit for all the courses they do through customized training and the small business center network. So again, it incentivizes what we call good behavior and puts the incentives where they need to be so we can support businesses and industries more effectively.
And then the other thing I think people are interested in nationally is that there's a built-in way for you to monitor what these sectors are relative to how the economy is changing in North Carolina.
Yeah, so first of all, we based it based on our Commerce Department and the data we're able to collect on our graduates when they go out into the world of work, what are they actually earning? So we use real-time data to set the parameters for this, but yes, we're going to, at the inception of this model, we built in, we're going to do a reanalyze every 3 years. We talked about doing it annually, but that's just too much shifting too quickly. So we said, look, we'll stop every 3 years and recalibrate, because things are coming into the economy and things are slipping out in terms of prominence and demand and wages. So we're going to build in a 3-year period that we'll come back and reanalyze and shift the tiers. So you may be a top tier now, but if in 3 years the demand or the wages have gone down or up, we're going to adjust and put the different workforce sectors where they belong on that scale.
The leaders are saying this Propel NC was developed at the speed of business, so thank you for your leadership.
Yes. We were our board chairman. To be candid, we talked about this might be a long session item. This is complicated work. And our new board chair, Tom Looney, he's many good things, a patient man. I don't know. He wants it done at the speed of business, and I agree. And so we pushed, and our presidents answered the call, and we got this model developed in about 4 months.
Thank you. Propel NC prioritizes connecting students to high-demand, high-wage jobs. Gary, that has to sound good to you and the business community.
Yeah, sure. It sure does, Mebane. And thank you for being here, Dr. Cox. Thanks for all the hard work you've done in that first 11 months here. It does. It's about alignment, and it's about making sure that North Carolinians have access and the ability to get trained and educated on the jobs that are available to them in their community. So it's about alignment, and it's about data, and it's about giving people a job. Because when you can produce a job, it's good for the person, they build communities, then the communities have the resources to invest more in their education and workforce systems, more in their infrastructure, which takes people, which attracts more private sector jobs. So we're really excited about it. It happened fast, but it can happen fast when you have dedicated people like Dr. Cox and his team at the system office. And I served with Tom Looney on the Wake Tech board, so I've been there and been on that train, and I still am on that train. And it's significant. The business community and the education community, K-12, community colleges, university system, public and private, are communicating as well as they've ever communicated now. And so we're seeing, and we know what it takes to continue to be the best place to live, work, and raise your family. And thanks to Dr. Cox's hard work and being able to pull 58 presidents together on a common plan is no small feat, but it goes to the commitment of the community colleges to give us the best workforce in the world.
This effort will target investment in programs tied to workforce demand. Tell us more about exactly how that will work.
Well, so Mebane, part of this is right now the way our structure works, we have curriculum programs. You think about a two-year curriculum program where you finish with an associate degree. Some of those are college transfer pathways that end up culminating later with a 4-year degree. Others are terminal 2-year degrees with us. But we've got a whole other side of our operation around short-term credential attainment, workforce, continuing education. And currently, under our current structure, those programs sometimes are funded at lower tier levels. So a good example of that is our EMS program. So for students who want to go out and be EMTs, work in the field, they can go through a 2-year curriculum program, or they can go through a short-term credential program through the workforce side of our operation. Currently, the workforce side is funded at a lower tier level than the curriculum side. So you can guess which side colleges are incentivized to put students in is the 2-year full program, because they earn more money for the college. But if you ask any EMS director out there, they would tell you they would rather have their workers who are trying to go back and get that final certification, they'd rather have them in the short-term credential program because it's more flexible, and it allows workers to stay employed and do this part-time versus having to commit to go back to school full-time for 2 years. which for a lot of our students is just not practical. So one of the ways that this is going to be impactful is it equalizes funding totally between the curriculum and the Con Ed or workforce credentials. So colleges are earning the same FTE value because those same programs are put in the same workforce sector under the new model. So it's much more flexible for students, which is better for them. It's also better for business and industry.
It's been said that this makes education easier for students. What does that mean, and why is it important to you? Gary, you first.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Well, the rate and pace of innovation and what's going on with the private sector companies now and the opportunities, we've never seen anything like it. And so what it does is it allows young people and adult learners to really see what's available to them much earlier, and they can see it, and they say, okay, the community college is doing this. That's a high-paying job. I know it's in my community. So it matches up with the rate and pace of innovation that's going on in people's lives and the access to information. So, and it reaches out because, so when I went to pharmacy school, I never thought I'd be sitting here, right? I thought I'd have 1 or 2 careers. Well, I've had 2, right? My kids are going to have 4 or 5 or 6 different jobs probably at least, because things are changing so fast. So it makes it easier because it meets them where they are, and you know, you have to have lifelong learners now, right? So as we're teaching young people to be lifelong learners and they have access to so much information, aligning the community college offerings with that speed, the rate and pace of innovation, they're going to be able to see it. They're going to be able to feel it. It's going to be meaningful very early in their lives, and they're going to see a pathway. Sometimes you lose hope early on when you're in school and you can't see things, or they're too confusing, or you think you can't achieve it. What Dr. Cox and the team and the community college president have done is they've made it visible, very clear and visible.
Dr. Cox, how does this make education easier for students?
Well, I think it gives a lot more on-ramps and off-ramps for students to think about, you know, when they want to go out and be pursuing a career. I've got 3 20-somethings at my house, and just the weight of the decision about trying to think what particular degree you're going to pursue and what your career is going to be, when it's like Gary says, it's not going to be a career. You're going to have probably 6 or 8 different career paths that you're going to navigate now. So with equalizing the playing field between the short-term credentials and the 2-year degree programs, it gives more flexibility for students. It gives us the opportunity to think about, I was in a conversation yesterday with a CEO of a biopharmaceutical company in Germany who has a footprint here in North Carolina, looking to maybe expand that. And having a conversation about what does your entry-level employee need in terms of education and experience? What are you looking for, and what's the pay rate? What's the next tier up? And then beyond that, how? And of course, the answer was it's all of these things. It's entry level, right out of high school. We can do some on-the-job training. It's, you know, if you all can add some different certifications, and then 2-year programs for some of our mechanics and things, and then yes, they've got scientists and things that are 4-year and even advanced degree beyond that. So thinking about how do we build this out in a way that it's accessible for all students, because a lot of students aren't going to immediately think about themselves as being able to go get a 4-year degree. So what we're trying to do is say, you can come get even a short-term credential and find yourself in a job that can pay a living wage. And then once that's attained by a student, it opens up the door then to begin thinking about, oh, okay, well maybe I can build on this and scaffold to a 2-year degree. And then when I get that, maybe I begin thinking, maybe I want to go on and get that job back in the research lab, but I need to go get my bachelor's degree to be able to do that job, because it pays higher still. So it's about creating a broader access. We've got 40% or so of our high school seniors who aren't going anywhere pursuing any kind of post-secondary degree or credential. They're not going to immediately change their mind and go and start getting 4-year degrees. So we're trying to level the playing field, say at least come get a short-term credential, get your foot in the door in one of these growing companies, expanding companies here in North Carolina who are desperate for a great workforce. Let us give you the entry key to that, and then you can build on that over time.
That's a great example, and Gary, it shows how Propel NC can help educate North Carolinians for North Carolina jobs. How would that help North Carolina's economy?
Oh, you know, we have the best state for business in the country for a reason. It was intentional. Right now we have the opportunity, but the population is just half of what it was 20 years ago. So, and people are retiring faster. So the baby boom generation, my generation, is leaving the workforce. And the next two generations don't add up to that. So we've got to do two things. We've got to make sure that the people that are here see a pathway for those jobs. And we also got to demonstrate that if you come here, and because we net in-migrate talent right now, because we have to, it's just math and demographics, that they see a pathway for them, but not only for them, for their children and their families. And that's how we're going to make sure that the economy continues to thrive here, because we take care of the folks that are here with a clear pathway, and people from other places that are coming here see a clear pathway for their children and their grandchildren to come in and earn a good living and build communities all across our state. So if you can see and show them the pathways, it'll work, and it'll be good for our economy. We're number one for business because of our community college systems in a lot of ways, right? What does Tom say? He goes, we're not going to be the best kept secret anymore.
Right.
Right? That's not a compliment. It's a great that we have them here, and they're extraordinary, as the new word, right? They're not the great 58. They're the extraordinary 58. Yeah. It's a unique competitive advantage for our economy to have the community college system positioned the way they are. So yeah, it's going to show people a pathway that live here. And it's going to show people that come here a pathway for them and their children, and that's what's going to make North Carolina grow for a long time.
They are unique competitive advantages, and they need to be funded to do that work.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you both for your leadership. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Good to talk with you.
Thanks for having you.